primarily about community and building inclusive communities. And when I was talking to a few folks about the topic, every one of them came back to, how do you define community? And I came to realize again, preparing for this presentation, that we should consider where we are on this continuum of community and how we actually do define for ourselves community. So I've gotten this slide, and again, it's from my person-centered thinking training, that I thought was a great visual for us to look at and dissect our own definition of community. So some people, for community, it's not what I choose for myself, and certainly not what Ryan chooses for himself, want to be in and stay in this thing called a service life, and that's their community. And as a group, they go out into the community. They take these trips together. And what is addressed at service life is what's important for the, meaning, are they safe and are they healthy? And I don't see that when I'm talking with someone in a service life that there's much focus around what's important to the person. So if we go over the continuum and we start to look at what's important for a person, and to, meaning the person has people who are paid and are part of family, are in their lives, and they understand how to keep someone safe, but also the few things that is for a good paid life. So there's a few real connections, but they're usually limited to family and to paid supports. Then you come to where, and I've starred this because this is where I think when we're building inclusive communities, this to me, and I say to me, defines real community, inclusive community. And that's where we've recognized people for their contributions, and they're valued for their participation. And they're known and welcome. It's the cheers mentality. When you come into a place where you visit quite often, people know you. And the other marker of a great community life, I think, is that you're missed when you're not there. So let's talk about how we may structure things to get to a real community life, okay? I always talk about pop the disability bubble. When Ryan, and by the way, Ryan's given me permission to share his story and my story, his journey, our journey. When I first diagnosis, I dove into what I call the disability bubble. All my contacts were his therapists, his teachers. It was all about fixing. I am a pretty strong advocate, and I was going to fix and make everything better the way I thought, and had nothing around me that didn't have anything to do with fixing what my situation was. Luckily, I have mentors, and that's the other part about building inclusive communities, or most anything we do. Surround yourself by people who are doing what you want to do. And I had mentors that helped me better understand that I needed to build on my gifts and capacities, put the oxygen mask on myself, and then begin to look and support and celebrate the gifts and capacities of my family as a whole. I use this word, build self-efficacy, and because I hear it so often, I think it's important that we just point out it's effectiveness, potential, ability, capability. So what are your, makes your heart sing and your toes tingle is what I learned from some of my mentors. And then in this gifts and capacities, we also have to go back to, and we'll talk more about what's important to and what's important for us, our family, and loved one with a disability. But how are we included in our immediate community? I recently come into enjoying a faith-based community, and in that I brought my love for policy and building inclusive faith-based communities. So I'm beginning to be recognized and valued for what I'm bringing to that new relationship. Okay. Go ahead and click again, because I want to emphasize interdependence. I hear over and over that I'm trying to achieve independence, or I'm looking for independence for my son or daughter to help them achieve independence. Throw it away. It's bunk. We can't build a true inclusive community if you are independent. Look for interdependence. The true community is interdependence. I have some friends that I so depend on, and there's this reciprocity between us, and we see each other for our gifts, our capacities. The other thing that's very, very important in building this interdependence of an inclusive community is to show up in regular places on a regular basis. So just be present. Begin to be known just for being present. And go back to that very beginning slide. When you come into these areas of regular commonplaces, lead with your gifts and capacities. Debunk this disability bubble that you're disempowered because you have a label of disability. We all have something. Focus on what you bring, and find places where you can share those gifts on a regular basis. The other thing that's, I think, important when we're thinking about places and circles of support, or I've put down here also planning circles, and there are people that actually get together to plan, is who is in your life, and to take a minute and record. Just throw a few circles on a piece of paper and write down your name in the middle, who's important to you in your family, your paid support, friends, and paid support in home and community. And let's look at an example that I did, Ryan and I did together. Slide. So again, with permission, Ryan said I could share his relationship circle that we did probably about a year ago. The people that are closest to him, in his case, he wanted to color code. Mom and Rico is Ryan's older brother. You can see that Ray, which is Rico's little brother, is a little further out. I have to be okay with that as a mom, because that's what he says is important to him. And then Dad, that should be another Cova Bella. His animals are important to him. So that's his family life. Those that are closest to his name are, for him, more important to him. And then go down to friends. For me, that whole bottom, because now I've popped disability bubble, is filled. And for me, that's what I want in my life, is lots and lots of friends. When we did this together with, he said, nope, I just want a few important people in my life. And those two important are Will, that he's known since first grade, and Mandy, someone else who get together on a regular basis. And then actually Dayton is my best friend, but it was an important friend to him, so we put that down there. The other thing that we see this, if you have an ISP or you've supported some ISP, we do this on a regular basis of planning. The part that I want for you to consider is to begin thinking about having a conversation with the person in the middle. What is important to you about the people on your communication, on your relationship map? What's important to you about Mom and Rico, and why is Ray farther out? Use this relationship map, record it for yourself and for others. You're building these inclusive communities, but don't stop there. Ask why. What's important to you about the people? Okay, next slide. And as you begin to build on yourself, the way you communicate, now we've defined communities, you've got your gifts and capacities, then click 2 times, Roma 2, please. Then we need to start looking at how are we supporting the person working with to build that inclusive community. And you'll hear me say the words working with. Are you trying to fix, and do you have power over and trying to shove someone into doing something? I use the words should. Are you telling someone what they should and do and trying to fix the situation or the person? Or are you supporting them to come to a higher level? Again, reflection for yourself. All right, next. So how can we become better at supporting with versus the power over in looking at people in self-efficacy, becoming self-advocates, inclusive communities? I came across this slide that I absolutely loved and wanted to take just a minute for you again to consider where you are on the continuum of being a decision maker, an advisor, or a consultant in your life, of course, and in the life of your loved one who experiences a disability. So what I had to learn when I saw this, I was very much the decision maker in my boys' lives. I'll say all three because I was the mama and they were the children, and I had the responsibility of making the important decisions. But as my oldest and youngest, who don't have labels of disability, started to grow, they moved away emotionally, in their independence on. It's Ryan who, because there's not just this path of moving down into interdependence. I did say the word independent, and this interdependence, I had to learn to step back. I had to learn to go from being the person making all the important decisions. I moved to becoming an advisor, so to give some advice. Now in his life, I am truly a consultant. For those who know me well know that I love to Appalachian Trail. And 2 of my buddies are out there right now. On the trail, there are signs. There are arrows that I can choose to take. I consider those consultant. I can choose to be this way or that way. I had to learn for Ryan to go from being the one who's making the important decision to just holding up a sign, giving him an informed choice to choose which way he wants to go. But as I grew in my ability to step away from making those important decisions, I realized I had supported Ryan into becoming the decision maker. So I left him without a platform. I just said, okay, buddy, you're on your own, without a life jacket. So I had to step back in to support him gradually to understand he is not just the consultant in his life. He is the final decision maker as he grows into this interdependence of true community inclusion. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So, this termity of risk. I get pushed back out a lot with the families who want to keep their son or daughter and healthy. The dignity of risk is the piece that I realized I had to embrace as I was supporting Ryan to go from consultant to decision maker. There is some decisions made that on travel. When he first started on MARTA, he would go south and get calls, and he needed help trying to figure out how to get back. And we worked through those. I put supports in place to help him be safe along this journey of becoming the decision maker. Budgeting, we're still fighting that one, but then again, so is his mama. When he goes out shopping, we talk about it beforehand, and then he goes to the store and making his own choice. I left communication on here because now, just recently, he better understand that the way he is in the world, the way he brings his behaviors, his words are communication. But I have to step back and allow him to experience, I'll just say, the failures, and give him the dignity of risk to have those conversations and communications. Yes, he has a Facebook page, and there's things that have happened that I probably wouldn't have done, and we've talked about it. It goes back to this, and we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about the balance of important to and important for a person. All right, next slide. Okay, I keep talking about this, and then let's look at it. The important for is keep person. It goes back to that service life, and it's healthy, and they're safe, and it dictates their lifestyle. So that if someone in supports would want to go skydiving, I doubt very seriously, if you're just looking at health and safety, that would happen. I do think it's important that we note, and again, this is information I've learned from my person-centered thinking training, that being a valued member of ... inclusive communities, based school, is a foundation part of being. It's also important for us. Okay, next. Versus important to. Now, this is a parent nightmare. If children were to have all choice and no responsibility, then that's not going to be a life well lived either. That they would only focus on what they're to achieve without consideration of what's important for them. I'll just throw out another example. Again, poor Ryan. I'm glad he's not on or sitting with me. He loves pizza. Every single Friday since he was a little boy, we have pizza. When he was with me, he would have 1 or 2 pieces of pizza and a salad. When he moved out on his own, he began to gain a lot of weight, and a lot of weight quickly. And I came back in to talk about, okay, what is this? What's going on? He would eat a whole pizza on Fridays, and I'm not talking a personal size. We're talking a large pizza. So I had to go back to, yes, it's important to you every Friday to have pizza. But it's important for your health to not eat the whole pizza. And there was discussion and communication on how to mediate that issue. Next slide. So this is what you want to attain when you're talking about yourself and building your balance, or the balance of your son or daughter, or supporting, is that you look at, yes, and safety, but then you include who are the people from that relationship map that are in their lives, and what's important to them about that. What's the status? What control do they have over their own lives? We all know when you go to a party, one of the first questions is, well, what do you do for a living? Or what do you do? That's status. I absolutely love saying, well, I'm a disability advocate. It makes my shoulders, when I say that, my shoulders go back and I stand up straight. That's my status, and that's where I share, again, my gifts and capacities. The things you do and the places you love to go, your daily routines. What's important to? Do you know what's important to your son or daughter, the loved one, the person you support, about routines? I didn't know that till I began to ask Ryan, what's important to you about this routine that you have to do in the morning? The pace of life. You can tell by the way I'm talking, I like to go, 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 go. Others around me like to be a little slower and take things a little at a time. Going back to culture, that's a bit of culture when you're building inclusive communities, and just understand what's important to a person in their pace of life. And then things, I've talked with many people who love to collect things. Vinyl is the big thing right now that the people are collecting. I was supporting someone in a group home who was being labeled a hoarder with his vinyl. And what we better understand is what was going on. The person who moved the group home, when my friend would bring in a new record, a vinyl, they would say, well, you have to give one up because there's just too many. And he began to hoard the things that they were taking away from him. I guarantee you, if you tried to tell me not to keep some of the things that I collect are important to me, that you'd have looking at a behavior management plan. Next. Okay, so we talked about, again, and going back through what we've learned, that communication chart. Slow down, ask the person, if you decide to use the communication chart, what is important to you about that alone time? Sometimes they won't know when there's a lot more conversations to be had. What is important to you about being in the community the way that you define community? And again, I hope it's community life the way that we start here. What's important to you about your gifts and capacities? I'll use Ryan again. He has this very amazing gift. I call it a savant, but I'm a proud mama. He can tell you what day you were born on if you tell him the month, day, and year you were born, and he can tell you the day. That's his way of connecting with people, because he's seen wow reaction. He's come to know that is something that not a lot of people do. So I always ask him, what's important to you about that? And he says, well, it's the way I understand how to start a conversation. Some other things, I'm looking down on this is Ryan's time alone with his computer, and he loves this Amazon. He put down independence, being able to go places without someone tagging along. That's me learning to be a consultant. And then traveling. I want to visit every state in the U.S. and travel to Europe once a year. That's important to him. So you better believe that down below, we had a lot of conversations about how to support you achieving these things of what's important to you. So being able to go places without someone tagging along, we don't just leave it alone of what's important to you. Talk about, all right, what are the supports needed to help you achieve these things that are important to? So we're not throwing one out there without considering the health and safety is what I'm trying to get at. Okay, next slide. And this is, again, not so much about inclusive community. It's just I would be remiss if I didn't share what we do. Ryan is one with the Batman, my handsome man, Batman on his shirt, and Will is his best friend since he's been in the first grade. If we begin to collect this information, the communication chart, relationship map, and we don't record it somewhere, it gets lost, and we're having to recreate it every time we go into whatever situation. So what we've done is, this is called a one-page description that's built from this person-centered thinking training that I've been so blessed to be part of. And we put down what people like and admire about Ryan. And the purpose of this one-page description was to help him with his interdependence. So people he's a genius. These are his words, genius in calendars. People that I asked what they like about Ryan, that he's funny, likes nice people. Those are important for Ryan to see up front about himself as he, again, goes into building these interdependent, inclusive communities. You start with your likes and admires. And then, of course, what's important to him: computer, pets, my mom, friends, movies, going out to eat, time alone, independence, and taking, that should be taking public transportation. Smarter. could be maybe I need to talk to Marta about a part-time position, huh? The supports need to help him achieve his important two. These are the supports he needs. And this is not done with mom putting down what I think is best. This is done in conversation with Ryan about how we can work together to achieve what's important to him. And then in Ryan's case, it's so important that the people in his life are respectful. And, well, you can just see that they're respectful, they're smart, and then they understand not to take everything personal. Ryan has a really good habit of telling me exactly what he thinks. And if I've put on an outfit that he thinks is not so pretty, I am going to hear all about it. I can't take it personal. I may decide to change it, I may not. It's important for people around him, like us, like everybody, to presume competence and to see Ryan's great gifts and for working alongside people with disabilities. Okay? So it doesn't just have to stop with building this one-page description. Oh, did you want to talk about?
Sorry, I was trying to get back to the previous slide. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. So we can go to the next one. What I want to show, just as a side, is yes, we build these persons description for people in services or people who experience a label of a disability, but for yourself, this is something I put together. The purpose of this one-page description is me as a person-centered trainer. And when I'm in training, I'd ask people what they like and admire about me. That's really hard for some people to do, including me. But here's the part. Through the conversations of the skills I talked about before, communication, relationship map, the next step always is what's to me about those skills, and it's collected here, and how to best support me as a trainer. And then the rest of this is just the pictures of my life and things that are important to me, to include my favorite quote from Rosa Parks. So I think it all starts with you and knowing yourself before we get into saying what the community needs to do for us. Okay, next slide. And some closing ideas I had is I wanted to give you some skills to take away, but then conversation about how do we make this happen. And here's some things that Ryan and I have done together and working with others who I've had the honor of going through person-centered planning with. We build our circles. We build our circles of friends, and planning, again, slow down and ask what's important to the people in those circles. And the other part is camps and overnights, and do those early on. Building our loved one to be, we'll say, to go to an inclusive post-secondary program, you need to start early and break that interdependence. I will say I had to break that interdependence. Volunteering. Studies show that children, sons, daughters, disabilities or not, who volunteer early and often have better employment outcomes. Again, break the interdependence, allow for dignity, risk, out and be. Volunteer at what you're really good at and what you love, and you'll be seen for your gifts, capacities versus a label of a disability. Again, clubs of interest. Then, real important, in everything that you're doing, preparing for inclusive post-secondary, slow down to ask and record what's important to you about it. What supports do you need to make that happen? I see that as the part that is missing quite often. Okay, that's all I got, Rama 2. So here's my name, of course, and then I'm with the Art Georgia, and my email is the best way to get in touch with me if I can help in any way.
Thank you so much, Stacey, for such a beautiful presentation. The floor is now open for questions and answers. Feel free to type in your questions, and we would answer it to the best of our ability.
And Ramati, what I'd love to say is not just questions, but comments. Let's learn from each other.
Yes, so if you have comments that you wish to share with us so that we can learn from you too on what you've done, what is successful for your child, feel free to type it in. While we're waiting for the questions, I would like to remind you that in the next 2 weeks, we'll have another presentation, another webinar, and it's going to be about the stable accounts or able accounts. It's going to be, let me tell you exactly the date. Sorry, my phone keeps messing up. I don't know why I go out of. So feel free to ask any questions.
And
yes,
as I'm looking,
someone has asked a question. So Stacey, she's asking, is this training available for self-directed staff? We have a house of 3 adults with special needs and 5 to 6 staff. Would love for them to have access to this training.
Oh, I'm going to ask you to email me with that so I have it in writing. I do have, I hate to throw this out there, but I'm going to, and I know we recorded. I have a meeting with DBHDD staff, and I believe it's in 2 weeks, about that very, that if we could use this information to gather and record that important 4 supports needed for self-directed or participant-directed would be critically important. So, not yet, but help me advocate. So thank you for that.
And then our next question is, how do I get started? My son is 15.
Oh, that go back to helping him understand his communications. And I'm looking at who's on this call. We have Peggy Ramos, we have Cindy Saylor, we've got some rock stars on this web. So it's not that there's not a magic wand, is what I'll say. Start where you are, understand, be mindful of where you are and what you want to go. Build a vision for where you're going and help your son to better understand his communication styles. Look at the people who are in your life, but then who's missing when you're looking at that vision? So who do you need to include? So just start slow, but be intentional about where you're going. And on that continuum of service life to community life, what does that look like for you? I hope that helps some.
So Ashley asks, this was so helpful, especially in thinking about my son. So I think hers is a comment, especially in thinking about my own patterns of independence and interdependence. You have reminded me that my own patterns are the place to start. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, and then Jane also says thank you. She will, from the comments you just gave her, answers to her questions.
All right, you're welcome.
And then another thing is we're going to have the live recording of this webinar saved on the Georgia Inclusive Post-Secondary Education Consortium website. It's going to be under the tab webinars, resources, then webinars. Then you will see a tab to the right that says GAPSEP 2019 Parent Webinar Series. If you tap there, you would scroll down all the webinars. We're going to have a total of 11 webinars, and each one has a recording and a PowerPoint, and they would all be there. Give us 2 weeks, because we've tried to get them in 1 week, and sometimes editing some part of the recording gets us delayed a bit. So let's say in 2 weeks from the time of the presentation, it should be up on the webinar, and you can even share it with your staff too. if you have people that are interested in looking at the webinars. Okay, let's see. Did we miss anything? Any more questions? Okay, yeah. Okay, someone says, thank you. I especially appreciate you sharing specifics about you and your son. Yeah, so while we still wait for more questions, feel free to type any comments that you wish to educate our people. As Stacey said, it doesn't have to be questions only. There are powerhouses online, so you should feel free to comment. So in the meantime, the fourth webinar is going to be on July the 24th, 2019 at noon, and it's going to be about stable accounts and special needs trust. We're going to have Doug Jackson present on this. It's going to be very informative. So if you're thinking about how to save money, how not to lose your SSI or your child's SSI because you earn a lot of money, or you want to save more than the $2,000 mark that they have for parents or for people living with disabilities. Stable accounts is a must listen so that you could learn how to open an account and save money for your child living with disability.
So Ramatu, real quick in the chat room, there's a comment for sharing with me ways to help parents to their students who have over the years surrendered their voice. And I see, to their students who have not shared preference and ideas. And that's the part that, going back to that consultant it was helpful for me to see it because I'm a visual learner, but go from consultant to decision maker. And that was just helpful for me to give a visual, and then to better understand that I've always talked for Ryan when he was young, and I didn't give that up when it was important for him to develop himself and his own identity. So it makes a big difference. And then Cindy Saylor, who's on the phone, love that you talked about important 2 and important 4. That's the part when, Cindy, I've learned over this person-centered thinking. When I started in person-centered planning, I was fighting for what was important to a person. It's important to Ryan to have pizza every without consideration of the important 4. And you can't have all of choice without the responsibility. And that's where we can begin to build the relevance of ourselves and our loved ones and community.
Great. Any more? Yeah, this is interesting.
So I think that's probably got it.
I saw some, did you see Chandra Doodles?
Yeah, that was in the
chats.
chat. Yeah, what I just shared.
Okay. Okay. Any more? We're open. We still have a few, maybe like 5 more minutes. If you have any more comments to share, any more questions to ask, anything that needs clarity. So
there's one listening in. Are they muted? Would they be able to talk?
Yeah, they can talk if they want to. They could raise, if you want to talk, you could just raise your hand and I would unmute you.
Wow, that's
for those that can't type.
Well, I go with that. The presentation was that informative.
Yeah, then the other thing I wanted to say is do look out for our email tomorrow. There will be a very short survey, like max 3 minutes, but I think it's even 2-minute survey about how we did. We want to know, because we have a question that asks what else you would want to hear from us, because this gives us more insight on what people out there want to hear about, want to know about, or want to learn about. So please do take some time to take the survey, just so that we could know how well we did, what more you want to hear from us. And I would also, okay,
go ahead.
I'm listening.
I was just at this very end of the presentation, I'd love to give a quick plug for the ARC Georgia. And since we're back on the first slide, that's Ryan, my handsome man at the top. He was actually doing a presentation for TSA in Delta a couple of years ago. And then down below is my colleague, Elizabeth Snary, and her son. She's just come on for family support and doing policy work around non-medical transport. The purpose of doing those things, that if policy advocacy is important to you, please send me an email and reach out. We've got to get more voices at the Capitol or around the Capitol. I share your story. That it would make a big powerful difference. If that is something that you're interested in, we'd love to know more.
Yeah, okay. So, and I was about to say that I would send another email. Apart from the survey, there would be another email just thanking you, and I would go ahead and just upload the link to the a link of the presentation, the PowerPoint, so that you would have it firsthand, just in case, before we upload it on the GAPSEC website, in case you need to maybe print out the communication chart and start trying your hands on how to create one for either yourself or for your child living with disability.
Just please remember to give, that is copyrighted, so to give keep the copyright on it so people know.
So it's written underneath.
I don't want to get accused of breaking copyright laws.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask, so with it written there, is that okay, or they needed to seek permission for the copyright?
Well, I think if you were to put it in a curriculum going forward, then you would need to seek permission.
I think for those that want to use it. Okay, right. I said, but if one wants to use it personally for their child,
I think that it would be fine.
Okay. Let me go back to this slide. So we're coming to the end of the webinar. If we don't have any more questions, we would be rounding up. I would like to personally thank Stacey Ramirez for her time and a wonderful presentation. And thank you all for joining our webinar. And we do hope you have gained a lot from the presentation. Do remember we have several bi-weekly webinars coming up every Wednesday at noon. And I can go ahead and resend the whole list. I can just put it up on the follow-up email. So thank you very much. Okay, someone's.
It's just me.
Oh, okay. Okay, then. Have a blessed rest of the day. Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Ramatu Muhammad from Center for Leadership in Disability at Georgia State University. Thank you. Bye-bye.